In the 4 years since Valve released their Steam Deck, millions of players have experienced a variety of games through its unique control scheme. Now, as Valve attempts to relaunch their Steam Machine initiative, Valve's taken the Steam Deck's controls and adapted them to a full-size controller. It's a play that's bound to excite the diehards who claim that trackpads are the key feature that keeps them loyal to their Steam Decks. It's also an exciting time for us fans of the original Steam controller to have yet another customizable gadget to carry between computers. With the right support, this could become the definitive way for folks to experience PC gaming, whether sitting at a desk or relaxing on a couch. Yet, for all the potential promise, there are all the signs that, like the original, this new Steam controller likely won't resonate with the general audience Valve attempted to court with their original Steam machines in 2015. And, well, honestly, I'm not sure that's quite a bad thing.
Much of that starts with the controller's design. It's large, bulky, and very far from the modern Xbox or DualSense shaped norms. Plenty of folks are bound to have a strong reaction to its aesthetics and have a difficult time recovering. Its abnormal shape and size does come in the service of making the controller exceptionally comfortable. Large, deep grips alongside the plastic's general texture evoke the feeling of holding a Steam Deck, except here the grips are angled outward and less prone to hand cramps. It's easy for me to pick up my Steam controller and have it settle naturally into my grip, whether light or tight. I do wish it had a bit more weight toward the bottom of the grips to give it just a bit more balance, and some additional texture around the grips also wouldn't hurt. However, even without those material bells and whistles, there are few controllers that I've immediately enjoyed holding quite as much as my Steam controller. With that in mind, the controller feels like it needs to be held in a very specific way. Folks who like choking up on their controllers will have issues here. Unlike many modern controllers, there's no bottom lip to the trigger wells, meaning they will bash into my fingers if my grip sits too high. The controller really wants to be held toward the center of the grips. It puts my thumbs in the right position to hit all controls comfortably. The grip buttons are also angled for that specific position. It was easy for me to develop a muscle memory for hand placement, but folks less able to adjust or with physical conditions mandating holding controllers in specific ways may not have as good a time. Folks unbothered by that may still need to consider if the controls are right for their needs. The Steam controller has a Steam Deck layout with the sticks rotated inward a few degrees. It's easy for me to reach all inputs with my thumbs and fingers, but I know there are many folks who may not enjoy the general arrangement. Face buttons and sticks are shoved toward the top of the controller to accommodate the touchpads. Combined with the fact that the sticks are symmetrical, some folks may find this layout cramped, despite the controller's size. It's hard to know for sure if it'll be a deal breaker without having one in your hands to try for yourself.
In general, it's a safe bet that anyone looking for a more traditional controller probably shouldn't opt for a Steam controller, especially if the touchpads don't seem that useful. But hopefully, that's obvious from just images of the controller. I can't imagine anyone ordering one and being shocked about button placement. It's just worthwhile to think it through before placing an order yourself.
On the topic of buttons, face buttons feel similar to a Steam Deck. They've the same general, soft, quiet travel with a bit of tactile pop when fully actuated. There is a slight difference in the overall experience using these buttons, but it's difficult to tell whether Valve did something different, my Steam Deck's just a bit more broken in, or if the form factor and shape lead to a different feel altogether. Whatever the case, they are solid, mass-market additions to a first-party controller. Something I wouldn't think twice coming from Xbox or Nintendo. The TMR sticks diverge a bit more from the Steam Deck. They're a hair smoother than stock Steam Deck sticks and feel really nice to use. The textured caps feel premium with no slippage to note. I've had no problems using them for either shooters, platformers, or menu navigation. Like other Steam-branded controllers, they come with capacitive tops. Each top can be mapped to a button or software trigger individually in Steam Input or just turned off completely. By default, many dedicated Steam controller configurations use them to enable motion controls. Adding motion to control schemes can become a great way to make small corrections to quick aiming that would typically happen via the sticks. A bit of practice can even help bridge some of the accuracy trade-off when opting for thumbsticks over a mouse. It feels great on this controller, and I'd recommend giving it a shot yourself. Up top, the shoulders and analog triggers are decent, but not best on the market. They both have a decent amount of travel and feel good to use. Instead of the typical clicky shoulders found on many other controllers, Valve opted for soft, poppy pushers that feel akin to the action buttons. I quite like them, even if they take the slightest bit more effort to actuate. Meanwhile, the triggers are a pretty standard affair. They're smooth to pull, don't have a ton of slippage, and are generally comfortable. I'd prefer some grip on them instead of the glossy plastic on display. Otherwise, I really can't fault their usability. It's just unfortunate that Valve didn't keep the two-stage trigger of the original Steam controller. That initial tactile stop made differentiating between soft and full pulls incredibly easy. With the new Steam controller, that differentiation is relegated to a haptic buzz when pulling the trigger past a certain threshold. It still works. With a bit of practice, it's easy to find the sweet spot to perform either type of trigger press. It's just a bit more finicky than I'd like for an already niche feature on a niche controller. Beyond the typical controller input, the Steam controller comes with a few more tricks up its sleeve. The angled grip buttons have a hefty amount of resistance to them. They're easy to press with my middle and ring fingers, but each button press feels deliberate. I never have to worry about accidental presses. Along each grip side is another capacitive pad. After mapping in Steam input, a tiny amount of pressure to the grips can yield a button press or software trigger. It's essentially the same function as the stick caps, just with a little more precision needed to use well. I found it most useful to use in games where I typically hold down a single button for a long period of time, like Mario Kart. Once I practiced a bit, they felt intuitive to use in the cases where they make sense to use.
If all that weren't enough, there are also the dual trackpads at the heart of the controller. Most folks might assume these were just copy and pasted from the Steam Deck, but they'd actually be wrong. Steam Deck trackpads sit atop clickable directional buttons, kind of like the original Steam controller. These are slightly bigger and have very little movement when not receiving power. When powered on, precise haptic feedback mimics button presses in cardinal directions, kind of like on a modern laptop trackpad.
I was skeptical at first, but I do think I like these a lot better. By default, either trackpad typically maps to left and right sticks in games, or scroll wheel and mouse input outside games. Their placement and updated specs make them a bit more intuitive to use than a Steam Deck, and I've actually found myself using them in place of sticks more often, even beyond the novelty of it all and testing for this video. Of course, they still don't hold a candle to the original Steam controller's giant wells. Those are tailor-made mouse replacements that feel much more responsive. As a handheld mouse, there's no way I could replace its functionality with the new controller. Still, I'd take the new Steam controller's full input suite over the original's dedication to trackpads any day. It feels like a complete controller that I can also use as a mouse when needed, instead of a mouse that I can also use as a controller when needed. Putting all these features together yields one of the most software customizable controllers around. Many testing sessions have included me getting lost in the different ways to use the capacitive buttons, touchpads, and trigger stops. I think I've actually started to enjoy Ball Pit just a bit more with the higher sensitivity of the touchpads, adding a bit more finickiness to aiming and movement. In Pepper Grinder, there's something satisfying about the drill coming to life every time I squeeze the controller. The extra tension of selectively applying pressure while maintaining momentum adds an interesting layer that I wouldn't get out of a more standard controller. All the while, haptics feel detailed in a way that's uncommon outside Nintendo's and Sony's controllers. Touchpads offer a wide range of sensations, despite their rigidity. Triggers, with the right configuration, offer a nice bump every time they're pulled. Grips feel nice and buzzy, not quite as high definition as a DualSense or Pro Controller 2, but clean and comfortable nonetheless. Probably the biggest upside to the new Steam controller is its use outside gameplay. Steam Input's desktop layout allows the controller to easily function as a mouse and keyboard outside Steam. Using the touchpads for mouse movement feels weirdly natural for system navigation. Steam's touch keyboard also feels just a bit easier to use on the Steam controller than on the Steam Deck. It feels perfect for anyone hooking their handheld or desktop PC to their TV. Now, I wouldn't choose the controller to complete a full day of work or write out a script or anything, but jumping out of a game to look up some quick info or check social media feels seamless. Even compared to the original Steam controller, everything just feels a bit more fluid. Any substantive downsides really just come down to the controller's dicey connectivity and compatibility. Connectivity is primarily handled by a 2.4G puck or direct wire to a system. The puck pairs with the Steam controller out of the box and seamlessly reinstates connections when swapping between systems. It also functions as a mini docking station for charging while magneting to the back, out of reach of my fingers when not in use. I'm a big fan. Compared to other 2.4G dongles, the puck feels just a bit nicer to use.
It's just not quite perfect in all scenarios. That's typically where Bluetooth pairing comes in. I've had no trouble with performance over Bluetooth. The pairing process just leaves a little bit to be desired. There's no dedicated pairing button here. Instead, I have to hold down R1 alongside one of the action buttons to choose a connection slot. Given that there's no indication on device about button combinations, this will undoubtedly be something I'll need to look up several times in the future when I inevitably forget. To get back to puck pairing mode, I also have to know to hold down L1 alongside an action button. The first time I swapped between modes, the controller actually lost its default connection with its puck. I had to access the puck via Steam, forget the controller, and then dock the controller to repair it. It's all a bit too finicky, and would have been easily solved with a dedicated pairing button and mode switch on the back.
Compatibility is also a bit dicey. If you plan to solely use a Steam controller with Steam on Windows, macOS, or Linux, you shouldn't have a problem. It works great with no issues to note. Outside Steam, it's been difficult to get other launchers and games to recognize the controller. That's partly because this is a new controller, likely in need of additional driver support. It's also because there's no X input or D input support to be found. As a result, the Xbox app, GOG, Epic Games Launcher, and macOS App Store games fail to recognize the Steam controller's inputs beyond keyboard and mouse input. Typically, I'd solve this issue using Steam Input's desktop layout feature, but it doesn't seem to be functioning as expected. I can force compatibility by assigning keyboard and mouse input to the controller. It's just not ideal or worth my time. Emulators likewise have a rough time with the controller. Certain emulators, like Dolphin and OpenEMU, have no trouble picking up the Steam controller as a controller in input settings. Other emulators, like CEMU or RPCS3, aren't able to access the controller at all. Trial and errors key for software compatibility, which just might warrant opting for a different controller to save your sanity. iOS and Android compatibility is even worse. Both operating systems recognize the Steam controller as keyboard and mouse input, which disallows mapping controls in emulators or using the controller in native games. Even software that interfaces directly with Steam, like Game Native, doesn't properly recognize the controller. The one exception, right now, is Steam Link. Steam Link has dedicated support for the Steam controller via Bluetooth and allows for Steam input to properly relay controls. Bottom line, as of recording, if you often need a controller for playing games outside Steam or on mobile platforms, you should probably consider just buying a different controller.
That hitch in compatibility could honestly be the biggest reason to overlook the Steam controller. At $100, there are plenty of controllers that will offer more hardware features and broader compatibility. Anyone looking for a single controller to use with as many platforms as possible, or who don't need all the software-driven features of the Steam controller, will easily find other options from 8BitDo, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, GuileKit, and, well, many more manufacturers that could offer better experiences for their needs.
However, I'd argue that folks who made it this far in the video and are put off by the Steam controller's Steam-centric compatibility and feature set likely weren't going to buy a Steam controller anyway, beyond reacting to any gaming community hype. Steam controllers are first and foremost for the types of folks who have a large Steam library and want to dial in the best experience to play that library. It's for folks who like what the Steam Deck's controls were attempting and want to carry that experience to their TV or gaming rig. They hear the idea of larger trackpads and capacitive sticks and get excited about integrating them into gameplay. Lagging compatibility with other systems doesn't even faze them because Steam's where they're spending their time anyway. Or they just want the thrill of testing the controller's limits for themselves. For those folks, the Steam controller doesn't really have any competition. There's nothing on the market that offers the same feature set, the same Steam input integration. In the same way that folks are glued to their Steam Decks because they can't imagine a handheld without trackpads, they're likely to see other options as downgrades without the Steam controller's input options. Unless we see another Steam-branded controller with capacitive sticks and trackpads, the question isn't, should you buy the Steam controller or a different third-party controller? It's really, do you primarily play on Steam? And would the Steam controller's features meaningfully impact your gaming experience? Altogether, the new Steam controller feels like the completed thought Valve had for their original controller. It successfully blends a mouse with a comfortable controller design that I can use from a desk or couch. At worst, it plays Steam games like any other controller, but at best, it feels like a brand new way to experience games, or just a way to re-experience games that would be difficult to play on other controllers. For me, that more than justifies the $100 price tag. Unless some other controller comes out with large trackpads and capacitive regions, there's nothing that can really compete with what the Steam controller offers. The Steam controller's in a league of its own. Not because it's better than all the other options, but because it offers a fundamentally different experience than what's available from those other options. For the right person who can make the most out of the Steam controller's features, it's an easy recommendation. Those are my thoughts though. Now's the time to share yours. Have you purchased a Steam controller and have thoughts you'd like to share? Or are you an original Steam controller fan with feelings about the new hardware? Or are you someone new to the space with additional questions? Let me know down in the comments. As always, if you found this video interesting or informative, go ahead and give it a like to let me know, then get subscribed for more controller reviews in the near future. If you're interested in more Valve-related videos, check out the links on the screen to my thoughts on Hori's Steam-branded controller. It comes with capacitive sticks, an interesting two-stage trigger, and a handful of compromises. It's both hard to recommend and difficult to hate. I'm sort of holding out hope for a similar third-party controller to appear one day with more features. Anyway, that's gonna be all for this video. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. Until next time, catch you later.